any problem, whether it's engineering or otherwise, can be solved by drawing it and breaking it down into smaller pieces. And that's actually why I love Salesforce. I think it functions, and not to get too technical, in what's called an object-oriented database. So really, to me, it allows you to segment your business processes while keeping them tied together in a clear story that you can understand the starting point of a relationship to exactly where you're at today. And ideally, if you're set up well, to understand where you're going to be going with that, client, that team, in the future. So
well, thanks everyone for joining this podcast today. This is our 4th episode, and today we got Vuk Stajic with MVRK, and we got Nick Momberket here, as well as myself, Nathan Dover. We're looking forward to talking to you here, Vuk. And before we get started, I wanna get to know a little bit about you. If you can give us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, as you said, I'm a strategic advisor with MVRK. Really, to kind of give you a context of how I got to that title, it's an interesting story. So, I'm a first generation immigrant to Canada. I came when I was around 10 years old. And since I was young, I had a huge fascination with, how are things built, knowing how things work. And that led me to eventually pursue a career or education in mechanical engineering. I was super lucky to study at University of New Brunswick. It's a very entrepreneurial focused environment. And that's where I kind of got that first taste, that first itch of true entrepreneurship, founding a little company, competing in business pitch competitions. And then as I graduated, I was focused initially on a really interesting growing ecosystem. I was working for a craft brewing manufacturer. So essentially, I was designing craft brewing vessels, craft brewing equipment, producing instructional manuals for this equipment, producing training videos, training brewers. And as pretty much, I think, in everybody's career, with a little bit of luck or a stroke of luck, when I joined the team, my manager said, "Hey, the engineering bullpen, it's a little bit busy. Do you mind if you go sit with the sales folks?" and I was like, I was wringing my hands. I said, "Definitely, yes, absolutely. That's the environment I want to be in." And as both of you, I'm sure, are aware, the way the difference in energy that you have in a Atlantic Canadian sales company is kind of infectious, I would say. And being the kind of eager problem solver that I was, I overheard them talking about what I thought was quite a silly problem. In the 90s, they purchased a stack of 5,000 carbon copy pre-printed sales orders. You know what I mean? I'm younger than that, right? So the papers with the dots on the side, three different pieces of paper stuck together, and then you've got to go write your completed sales order, whether it's $1,000 or $1 million. You've got this chicken scratched hand piece of paper, and they every day they were complaining and worrying about running out of these pieces of paper. They were on the last 100, and they and I said, "Listen, there's got to be a paperless way to do this." I knew that they were using a tool called Salesforce to manage their sales pipeline, and they let me kind of have the keys to the tool. I did some research, and lo and behold, I discovered a little tool that they could use to just generate a PDF, create a numbering system that just automatically numbers from 5,001, so they could forget about those pre-printed pieces of paper, and really fell in love with the ability to transform fundamentally a business process with really basic configuration tools to go paperless, resolve legibility issues, and in general not have to worry about only having 3 pieces of paper representing a multi-million-dollar deal. So as they as they saw that interest in the tool reflected in me, they trusted me with more and more experience and responsibility rather on the platform. I was eventually moved fully into the sales team. I was doing some selling as well, gaining some of that experience. And I was given a significant budget to, really up the game of that Salesforce platform, bringing in marketing into the fold, bringing in service into the fold, bringing some competitors that we had acquired, putting everybody on the same platform. And I was hiring an external consulting company to do a lot of this over the course of a couple of years. And as we kind of reached the end of that project, again, just by luck, the salesperson from that consulting firm that was selling to me had announced, hey, I'm going to be leaving. I'm going somewhere else. So I knew there'd be a gap there, right? So I went to my consulting, my consultants from that firm, and I said, hey, you've got to introduce me to the management of your sales team. They did. I kind of pitched myself. I said, hey, listen, I've got a lot of experience being your client. I'd love to go out there and try to sell some of your services. And knowing that there was a fit, they said yes. And after that, I spent 3 incredibly formative years, being incredibly privileged to have a lot of fantastic clients to work with, hundreds of companies, sell millions of dollars of consulting services, see so many projects across so many verticals, collaborate incredibly closely with Salesforce's account executives, sales engineers, solutions engineers, and of course work with a team of over 100 incredibly talented consultants, developers, architects, project managers, what have you. And throughout that, I started seeing some common patterns that really inspired me to found a company that would be able to bridge some of those gaps that I saw. Throughout the entire time that I was kind of talking to customers looking to improve or start using Salesforce and CRM technology in general, it was very rare that anybody would come to me and say, hey, we've got this clear business use case and we know exactly what we need and why we need it, right? That wasn't something that was very common. And I noticed that led to a lot of increased costs on the implementation side, and it opened up a lot of potential for misaligned expectations. As well, clear documentation, which I was very used to in the engineering side of my career, wasn't really a common deliverable in these projects. And again, these factors weren't any symptom of the company I was with. It's just the technology landscape, I would say, in general, right? And especially Salesforce. It's kind of hard for clients to know exactly what they need. And then I noticed that all of these factors exposed organizations to significant brain drain when really only the people involved in the projects, like I was at the company before, were the ones who knew truly what was built and why it was built. So, and many times companies would come to me who were facing, and still do, who are facing that situation where, hey, we lost somebody. So that was it, really, seeing those patterns of lack of value, potential failure, and bringing that engineering documentation, coaching passion, business passion together with my experience in the Salesforce platform allowed me really to truly do what I love, which is helping businesses grow, building those relationships, getting my hands dirty, coaching individuals, coaching companies. So that's what Maverick is. We're a coaching company that drives documentation practices to ensure that we're preventing brain drain, and we focus on bringing a strong return on investment on any platforms, primarily Salesforce, through effective procurement. So that's, I think, what I would call the Maverick approach. So
okay.
And if anybody knows me, they know I talk a lot. So there you go. There you have
That was
it.
a great intro. How does somebody go about reaching out to you, I guess? How do you generally prospect, or how do you get your Maverick name out there so companies are going to be reaching out to you for their problem solving?
Well, that's a fantastic question, Ethan. And I think one of the things that I think brought us together is some of the work that I've been doing on LinkedIn. And in general, I think what, especially more and more in the business to business space, what's truly driving purchasing decisions is, and a lot of people in the enterprise space will argue with me, I'm sure, all day, is relationships, especially in this pandemic time, right? If a company is going to be bringing on consultants, bringing on advisors, which is what I am, I can't get away from that. They're going to look for people that they want to work with, right? That they know they can trust. And the only way that I know how to build trust is through information sharing, is through coaching. So the things that I've really focused on to ensure that everybody knows that Maverick is a brand that stands for loyalty, clear delivery, capable service is, to be honest, with all of my shared content on LinkedIn and wherever else I talk, wherever else I share my knowledge. that's really been it, is ensuring that I'm sharing value, that I'm adding helpful information and not putting it behind a paywall.
Right. That makes sense for sure. Yeah, I've seen you do a lot of good things on LinkedIn, and I love your profile. I recommend anyone that's watching this to go check it out, because he's got a lot of good information on there that I've learned a lot personally. So I'm sure other people, especially in your field, could definitely learn a lot. A lot of business owners and everything too. So definitely go check it out.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I get a question around Salesforce. Maybe some of our audience might not quite know what that is. I've used it. Some of the insurance carriers that we sell for have it as a base platform, in which allows us to sell online, to do virtual applications, which is kind of a game changer for us being younger. Like, I'm the young guy in the industry. Nathan's the real young guy in the industry. Sorry, Nate. And
It's all good.
one thing I seen is exactly what you're describing. Like, I went into my first office and they had more filing cabinets than they did have desk space, and this is where all the client files were. And I thought to myself, like, man, this is antiquated. Now, this was like 13 years ago, so at that time it was, I don't know how popular using a quality CRM or funnel or whatever you may describe Salesforce as. But one of the things that was important to me was, when I launched my firm, we want to be paperless. We want to do as much as we can online. And we want to have a quality CRM that allows us to avoid the brain drain. That was something that was important to me as a sole business owner in the early days, because you can only remember so much. So automating things was important. So, I second your view on that, and it's definitely been helpful. So I guess, can you tell the audience what Salesforce is, and how it can help organizations, let's say from 10 or less employees to that of hundreds of thousands, which I believe it does. So.
That if I miss any part of that question, just bring me back to it. But
sorry, that was a long
question.
one. Sorry.
No, that's a fantastic question. So, it's funny, so yes, being younger in sales, kind of really only starting with Salesforce and in sales in general in 2014, I've only known CRM, right? So, and kind of being so focused in where I'm focused, I do take it for granted that perhaps Salesforce is not a known commodity. CRM in general is not a known commodity. So in general, CRM stands for customer relationship management. So that's a good way to describe it. But Salesforce as a platform is a lot more than that. So Salesforce, the way I would describe it, is it's a business process facilitation platform. Okay, so and that's the way I look at it. So one of the early things that I ever learned in engineering, the first thing that I think a fantastic mentor by the name of Don McEwen taught us was, any problem, whether it's engineering or otherwise, can be solved by drawing it and breaking it down into smaller pieces. And that's actually why I love Salesforce. I think it really it functions, and not to get too technical, in what's called an object-oriented database. So really, to me, it allows you to segment your business processes while keeping them tied together in a clear story that you can understand the starting point of a relationship to exactly where you're at today, and ideally, if you're set up well, to understand where you're going to be going with that client, that team in the future. So I hesitate ever to attribute a specific business function or to attribute a specific vertical to Salesforce, because currently it really can be used anywhere. But let's, I like the way that you frame the question around company size, right? And the cool thing about starting a business, a small business, and again, I don't know, we're just going to keep echoing what each other says, because I think it is the truth, is that whether you've got a team of 2-3 salespeople, or you've got a team of dozens to hundreds, you want to know, and I'm just focusing on sales here right now, right? You want to know the health of every relationship and what everybody in the team is working on. And even, again, only knowing CRM, I've seen it used poorly in many places where having those answers was not always easy, right? So Salesforce CRMs in general really ensure that the team is able to be managed and led through being able to communicate what they're working on clearly to their senior management, right? And as well, when it's built well, as you said, when it's automated well, it's helping you execute a lot of the processes, helping you stay on top of your task list, helping you ideally sell more, right? Do less clerical work. So in a high level, I think that's where I would attribute the base starting kind of conversational, basic, value-added ideas around a CRM platform. But that one question alone, I could talk about forever. And
so
then,
go ahead. Could that, like, I see that maybe adding some value, like decreasing the perception of a sales employee that they're being micromanaged, maybe. Mm-hmm. Am I right? Like, is that one of the small pieces that might help there?
I'm so glad you said that, because I have a huge pet peeve when it comes to micromanagement, especially when it comes to micromanagement in a CRM platform. You know, right. if you configure a platform well and configure your team, the people that are on the team well, you don't have to micromanage, right? That's the beauty of the platform. Yet still, many times I see companies, or on the public community that Salesforce has, the Salesforce customer community, the Trailblazer community. There's still so many people that come and they say, hey, I want to be able to count every single email that is sent, every single conversation, every single phone dial, every single time that somebody looks at a screen, every single time, how much time they're spending. Like, my head starts to get dizzy. I start to think, why? Like, that's really, as a leader, that's where you want to take your management, is you want to be screaming at people for the exact number of dials that they're making. And you don't want to care about, are they actually given a process that makes sense for the client, right? That's well facilitated by a platform. You don't want to care about the results that they're actually attaining through their activities, right? You just want to manage the upfront things to try to control them and turn them into a robot. Well, in sales, I've never found a robot that was successful. Every single incredibly successful salesperson that I found has been a spirited individual with a unique personality that doesn't sell only the tool or service that's being sold, right? They're really selling themselves. They're selling their belief, their conviction, and Salesforce can't measure that, right? So Salesforce is there to help that person deal with the mundane, and if you're set it up effectively, right, it's going to deal with it for them, and you're not going to have to scream at them. All you're going to have to do as a manager really is assist, right? Coach, guide. Be that person that escalates, be that person that steps in and adds value when necessary in a deal, right? So those are the kinds of conversations that I try to have with sales leaders when it comes to CRM. They come to me and they say, I want to have all these metrics. And I come to them and I say, well, don't you actually want to know when it's relevant for you to step in and help? Don't you want to know when it's actually relevant for you to give some advice? Isn't that really what a technology should be helping you do, is the things that are going to add value to them closing a deal, versus you kind of counting and keeping a tally of every single activity that they make. So I'm glad you brought up micromanagement, because
it's just something I think about when I look at these platforms, and I know that, like, older generations maybe, and perhaps even our own, let's say we don't have a platform like this and introduce it to the company, and there's 30 salespeople. Now all of a sudden they're going, oh my goodness, now I got to do all this extra work. But ultimately, a business lives and dies on sales. So I would say the purpose of it is for management ownership to say, hey, let's make your life easier, salespeople. And your processes will be simpler to complete, easier to, follow, and ensure that follow up with current clients and prospects is done in a timely manner without us having to remember the 14 people we're having conversations with right now, rather than let me put a microscope on, said salesperson and drive it that way. I would guess maybe some people who implement it, those sales managers or owners, might see it as a tool to do that, and perhaps it's not as successful if they do so. Is that a fair statement?
Definitely, right. And I was laughing because you brought me a memory that when we did that significant implementation that I talked about at the engineering firm where I started my career, the official project title was MSLE, Make Sales Life Easier.
Right. Nice. Okay.
That was what our sales manager at the time came up with, and I haven't thought of that in a while, so that brought back some good memories. But definitely, right, if you approach a tool like this, or any piece of technology, any kind of investment, any hire that you make, right, I believe if the focus that you have going into it is, I'm going to manage every single, I'm like, it's like playing a video game. I'm going to correct every single action and count every single action. I'm going to be the one that's not a healthy way to manage one person, let alone a team of a handful of like I said, spirited, convicted individuals conviction-filled individuals that really want to spill the message that your company is there to do. And again, if you as a manager focus them in the right areas and you say, hey, these are the type of clients that are going to purchase from us almost always. If they're in these situations, find those people, identify those people, use Salesforce to help you, right? Mark, hey, this is a company, and I just posted about this yesterday, Nathan, that you, I think you interacted with, right? When you have a tool like Salesforce, you can find a list of companies you want to target, right? First, you qualify, is this company potentially a fit for my product or service, right? Okay, that's a qualified lead. Awesome. That looks like a company that will actually benefit from the tool or the service that we sell. Now we take it and we go to them and we say, hey, we believe we're a good fit. Do you want to work with us to see if you will be a good fit for our product or service at the time now, at this time, right? Make that relationship. If the answer is, hey, we're not, maybe hey, we understand that this thing makes sense for us, but not today. All right. Well, you've got tools like Salesforce that'll help you remember all those. And it doesn't matter if the person who had that conversation with them left, right? Salesforce is going to remember, hey, this was a company that was marked as definitely qualified. This was the reason why I wasn't interested today. 2 years from now, reach out again, or year from now, reach out again. 6 months from now, reach out again, right? So you don't need to, as a manager, say to somebody, have you reached out to all of your companies that you said you would from 6 months ago? So, you can configure a tool like Salesforce to say, all right, boom, here's notification. Now it's your time to go contact Acme company. 6 months ago, they were very well qualified, not interested based on timing, proceed, right? So does that kind of address, I think, the example that you brought up?
I think it does, and it highlights, let's give away a secret to sales success, which is in my opinion, follow up. Hard to be successful if you're not following up, or perhaps, I say I would and I don't because I forgot because my paper blew away or I lost my notebook or something like that. In this day and age, I don't believe that that should be the case or an excuse for anyone, So definitely answers the question. Thank you. Yeah.
100%.
And I definitely think technology's come a long way, even in the last 5 years for stuff like this. Like just the fact that even for virtual meetings, you get notifications 15 minutes before. It's like, well, how are you going to miss that? I'm getting it on my phone. I'm getting it on my computer. It's just dinging all over the place just to remind me that I got a meeting. So I guess kind of staying on this technological side of things and going back to what we were talking about earlier on LinkedIn, Vuk, I got a couple questions for you. As I know you're a pretty prominent member, especially in the Salesforce community on LinkedIn. Now, is that the only group you really focus on LinkedIn? And how long did it take for you to become like a well-known person in that community?
I would say I'm a heavy sufferer of imposter syndrome. So, even hearing that description, the way I guess you would view that you or anybody would view me as a prominent member of anything is a little bit odd to my personality. Like I said, I love adding value, but I don't have any kind of a delusion of grandeur that I'm more important or have more valuable information to share than anybody. I just frankly really love to communicate. So I'm happy if that is how I'm perceived, but I guess that's I guess to answer your question, that's never been a goal.
Right.
The goal has essentially always been on LinkedIn to have a place where I can, like I said, add value and ideally talk myself out of ever needing to talk. I see myself over the next few years being able to stop posting because I've said kind of all the things I believe need to be said for at least quite a little while. And maybe that's a silly thought, but I guess I don't see it as a venture to gain a fellowship, but I do see it as a exercise in building a repertoire of valuable information that I can reuse, help clients, lead clients to, prospect through, right? Just as a place where people might stumble on something if they're looking for it. Same with the reason why some of my content, some of my videos are on YouTube. It's really so. I would actually say LinkedIn is not a prospecting tool for me, but as we did briefly talk about it, and I'm happy to dive into the place where I've really worked to establish a reputation. I would say, again, not a following, but a reputation for somebody that clearly cares to help is is the Salesforce Trailhead community. And essentially what that is kind of like a crowdsourced Salesforce help desk. So if you've got a question that's a little bit too unique, a little bit too broad, or you don't have the patience or whatever have you, you don't have the ability to access the standard Salesforce support desk, you as a general user of Salesforce or non-user of Salesforce can log in, and you can just ask any question that you want on this community. And one of the cool things that community has is some fantastic leadership from the Salesforce side of things, right? So it's run really well by some fantastic community members. Namely, a big shout out to Bhavin, who is a fantastic leader who focuses on those of us who answer a lot of questions on there that like to provide value. So it's kind of like he leads our little top answer collaborators community group. And the amazing thing about, I think, answering questions, giving people free value, not trying to leave any kind of bait on a hook in front of them, is that I've noticed that I learn a lot too. So not only is it perceived, I think, positively by my peers and by people who generally need help with the types of problems that I solve, right? They say, hey, you know what, this person helped me with something for free. That's fantastic. Gave me good valuable information. Just kind of bodes. I think it bodes well. But really, what I think it's allowed me to do is, as I said, learn at an accelerated rate, right? So even if I see a question that somebody's asked and I don't know the answer to, or somebody else in the community has already answered it, it's just been a great place for me to never stop learning. And I think if you read any entrepreneurial help book, that's always going to be somewhere along the list of things you have to do as an entrepreneur, is never give up on learning. So it's kind of become this place where even if I'm not able to help somebody, I'm learning myself, and that's leveling me up. And like I said, through that, I've been afforded opportunities that, through Salesforce, found to do different kinds of speaking engagements, many individuals that have paid me to do work. In fact, I would venture to say that, 4 out of 5 deals that I have, maybe like, every 80%, maybe let's say 60% of my deals that I get come from the community of people who just saw me answer a question and they say, hey, can you talk to me about this? And the conversation goes from one small problem that they have to, well, we actually have no documentation. I'm new to Salesforce. Could use some help. Our team wants to improve how we use it, right? So it's just been a natural kind of lead magnet, I would say, right? It's just a place where I'm not intentionally going there to just say, hey, give me business. It's kind of like, I help you. You realize, oh my God, I've got somebody in the line who can help. Let me spill all of my Salesforce pain to you. Okay, that's fine. We'll put it together. And
So you're just hanging out on like another social media platform.
That's
and
it.
That's
right.
it.
That's really what it is. And then again, Salesforce takes notice of that. People take notice of that, and it's free. The most beautiful part of the whole thing is I'm not, screaming at people about myself, right? I'm not saying, here's Maverick, here's how we solve problems, here's what we do, sending emails. Not that I have anything wrong with that type of marketing, but it's really more so, like I said, to me, marketing is helping. I think that's my personal brand, is a coach, a guide, somebody who really loves to solve problems. I love to make other people look like they're heroes in their team, right? So if I can help somebody solve a problem in their team, on the community, that again bodes well. Well, how'd you yesterday you didn't know this, and I figured out, well, it was this, guy from the community that helped me. And, they come back and they say, hey, can you actually give us a little bit more of a hand, right? So that's really, and again, I don't think that's only possible in Salesforce community. I don't think that's only possible in my ecosystem. I think even you, Nathan, I'm sure you can find a place where, in general, I guess the way I would say it is, find the place where your ideal customers go to look for help them for free.
Right.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there. It reminds, we often learn more by teaching than doing. And I recall there's many a times when I fire myself in front of an audience or a certain situation that I might not be extremely well versed on, but by the time I get there, I'm pretty darn good at what's going on, and it forces you to learn. So putting yourself out there That's a really good learning from that experience and your input into that program. Outside of LinkedIn and or that Salesforce community that you mentioned, do you use any other platforms?
Very little bit of YouTube, like I said, just because LinkedIn doesn't like to host larger videos for their bandwidth. I am a part of, like I said, various Slack channels that are out there, but to be honest, I haven't been as active there. Rev Genius being one of them, that's a fantastic community, but I don't find myself wanting to go into those communities, and it's not a place where people are asking for as much help, right? So I don't like being that person that goes in and says, I've got these things to share with you. I want to, LinkedIn is kind of where I do that side of my world, because I know that, people don't have to choose to listen to me, but I don't prefer to kind of market myself in those kind of what do we call, business groups like Rev Genius, because it doesn't feel genuine. It doesn't feel right. So, if I'm on there, and I see a question that's very tailored to what I'm doing, I'll be happy to help, but it's not as common. So I wouldn't say I spend as much time there. And in general, I always preach focus. So I would, for anybody that's kind of listening to my story and thinking they want to follow a similar path, I would urge you to do the same. Like, I don't think although I think I'm going against the grain here. Most marketing principles say create content, spread it on every channel that you have. That's kind of the common marketing lingo or marketing advice that I see. But given that, again, I'm trying to sell a different type of a brand, genuinely wanting to help, I find it disingenuous to focus on more than I can actually kind of tangibly focus on in a clear manner and be interactive with the community, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
As you're saying that, I'm just curious, thinking like, you're working in these forums and sometimes winning clients or building new relationships there. Do you all so I believe you're based in Atlantic, Canada. Do you serve Canada, North America, the world? Like where are your clients? And can you maybe give us a couple of examples of some of your clients, like maybe what they do with sharing names, etc.?
Sure. So primarily focused in North America, but if anybody in Australia wants to collaborate over their midnight with me, more than happy to do so. Anybody in Europe wants to collaborate, I'm happy to do so. And the cool thing about the Salesforce community is everybody around the world is there. So I do get to help lots of companies everywhere, but my paying customers are all in Canada and America, from Sebastopol, California to to Halifax, Nova Scotia. So coast to coast to coast to coast to border.
Yeah.
So that's primarily, like I said, where my paid work comes from, but I love collaborating with folks all across the world.
Nice.
When it comes to the types of businesses that I prefer to work with are primarily kind of small to mid-sized organizations that, and it's less specifically in the technology or ecosystem industry that they're in. It's more so the situation that they're in, right? So if they're a business to business company that is either already invested in or looking to invest in a CRM technology like Salesforce, I'm always happy to, and they don't have, let's say, a full team in internally of Salesforce admins and developers, right? They're not at a place where their internal Salesforce maturity is so strong that, hey, they don't really need my help. Those folks are kind of typically disqualified. So it's really about a company that's looking at this tool, knows that this tool can bring them value, maybe has been burned in the past with, kind of cruddy implementations or cruddy self-implementations. Now they're maybe establishing a person or people who are going to be more closely taking care of this technology, but those folks don't have any certifications or experience in the platform. Though that has been the most common thread, I would say, across all of my clients, right? They're in this situation where they know they can do more with this tool. They can work better with it. They want to improve it. They've got some people trying to do it, but those people are stuck. Well, almost always the things that I'm doing, like I said, which is coaching those individuals and helping those individuals develop documentation and plan for the future of the tool's evolution and find a way to support themselves internally, again, to minimize any external spending or unnecessary spending. That's been the common thread. Now, the types of companies I've worked with are, manufacturers, technology companies, some crypto companies, finance companies. So it's been a wide array, and even that is a fantastic learning experience. But like I said, if you put me in a situation where you've got a team that's trying to use Salesforce, their business-to-business company, as long as I apply my principles of breaking down any of their processes from sales to operations, marketing, whatever you want, whatever have you, integrations between all of their tools, as long as we can get together, draw it, understand the processes, we can make sure that they can use Salesforce to facilitate what they need to effectively. And of course, if there's any integrations that need to happen, we can make sure that we architect those integrations incredibly well. Given that we're Atlantic Canada, I'm happy to kind of talk you through the life of a client. One of my favorite. Everybody's my favorite. You're all my favorite. But favorite in terms of the amount of different things that I've been able to do for them has been a manufacturing company in Halifax, in the Halifax area. And the cool thing is they came to me in exactly the situation that I described, which is we've been using Salesforce for a long time. We're not really using, we don't really think we're getting the most out of it. We've got these expensive add-ons for marketing that we're just flat out not using. What can you do, right? So for me, there is a clear pattern that emerges, which is you want to stabilize, right? Then you want to enhance, right? So you don't want to try to solve every single problem. You've got to get to that minimum viable product. You've got to understand where you're at, meet the users where they're at, meet the business where it's at in terms of the maturity level, and then look forward, right? So that's exactly what we did for them. We stabilized Salesforce, brought in place some documentation on the tool. I helped them find an external consultant that helped them with the Pardot, which is a business-to-business marketing automation tool that came in and coached them. We worked to establish a new partnership with their ERP manufacturing technology they use, their finance tools. And we helped them find an integration partner that was going to put together their e-commerce tools with Salesforce with their ERP, right? So it's kind of this, and again, why I say it's been my favorite in terms of the breadth of things that we've been able to do together and the length that I've been able to take them to over a short period of time, over the course of less than a year. We've been able to ensure that not just Salesforce, not just their CRM technology is running smoothly, but that all of the technology that they're using for their go-to-market and post-sale delivery technology is on the road to being able to communicate together, work together, limit the amount of handwriting that we have to do, limit the amount of human interaction that has to be in the system. And the beautiful thing about it is that it's been a natural collaboration, right? It hasn't been this kind of forced thing where I've had to go and pitch and sell and present and push, which I used to, have to do in when I was selling to companies where I wasn't the person that was eventually going to deliver the work, right? Being an embedded member of their team essentially has brought down those walls, allowed them to really learn to trust me, allowed me to guide them in a direction that fundamentally makes sense for exactly what they're trying to accomplish and make sure that they're spending money effectively. And that's what I hope I can do for every single one of my clients. So does that answer your question again without using any?
Yeah, absolutely. You use an acronym ERP. I don't know what that is. What is that?
Me with acronyms: Enterprise Resource Planning System. So okay. Inventory, purchasing, sales order management, those accounting, those kinds of
that's pretty important stuff.
That their manufacturing side of the business, post-sale side of the business would use.
Cool.
Gotcha. And Vuk, is it just you? Is it just you running a Maverick there?
Definitely. So for me, the growth of the business, at least in these initial foundational years where I'm really focused on a repeatable delivery that brings value, has been partnership over growth, over internal growth. So the plan long term, of course, is to have some individuals who have a similar mentality, similar mindset to helping businesses solve pertinent challenges, helping them understand the processes that they're carrying out and meeting technology bringing in technology to facilitate that. But what I've found is that there's so many different functional areas, integrations, marketing, all different modules that Salesforce may offer, that no matter what type of a hire I aim to make, in the next year or two, it will pinhole me into just what that person's experience and talent is. And then I'll be on the hook to have to find work specifically that fits their abilities, right? So instead, I've really focused on finding incredibly talented companies that are smaller teams that are niched on specific elements of Salesforce, finding really talented individual consultants that I can bring alongside to fit in a gap that I identify for my clients, right? Does that make sense, right? So we talk, we say, hey, this is what we really need. And that's that client that I took you through their journey is a great example of that. I was able to find an unbelievable Pardot consultant for them. Jen Kazin, this is a shout out for you. You're awesome. And through that, through seeing how she worked with them, I was able to build trust and say, this is somebody that's really talented. And I've referred her to other clients of mine since then, right? So knowing that I have people like that who are really also talented and focused on what they do makes it easier for me to be unbiased to my clients and say, hey, we've got this problem. It's not a problem I can solve. It's a problem I can help you manage to solve. Here are some great options for it, right? Knowing that I can bring those solutions in is a lot easier than being in the same situation and saying, okay, well, how do we fit a square peg into a round hole? I've got a consultant that's got this experience, but I've got this problem. How do I force that problem into the consultant that I have, right? So even if I had 4, 5, 6 other people on my team, I wouldn't be able to cover. We'd have to build in a full sales architecture, which again doesn't flow as well with the natural branding, the kind of persona branding that I'm really leading this company development with. So again, partnership over internal growth has been the focus. Did that answer your question? Any thoughts on that?
It definitely did. And I know right now you've been working remotely, and I'm also doing the same thing. And I just wanted to know, how do you stay on task like throughout your day? Like, do you set goals in the morning? Do you set goals in general, or how do you go about your day and make sure it's productive?
I go about my day through a very fundamentally simple concept. I time block. It's a practice that I never stopped since I left university. That one of my favorite things about having that university schedule was you knew where you had to be and when, right? And when the moment I was given a calendar at work, I didn't just add internal meetings, external meetings to my calendar. I started adding task blocks, right? So my calendar became my to-do list. Of course, I do keep a very clear to-do list oriented based on the engagements that I'm in, pre-engagements that I'm in, general business administration work that I have to do. But when I'm looking through that to-do list, I'm always putting time blocks into my calendar, right? So if you look at my calendar, you'll see, and every client has its own color. I'm a little bit specific about that. Every client has their own color on the calendar, and different types of internal or self meetings or giving away free time meetings are time blocked in different colors. So that's the secret to my productivity. And it's never leave something that could be done today to tomorrow. But don't get me wrong. Am I forgiving with myself? Yes, but it's fundamentally one of the things that really drove me into a entrepreneurial lifestyle is the entire concept of being able to own my time, right? Whether that means owning how much value I believe my time is worth, or working when I want to work, working where I want to work, right? So those concepts are heavily rooted in why I want to be an entrepreneur. Those fundamental, I think, freedoms that I want to experience. So that's kind of how I stay focused.
Gotcha.
Makes me think, two of the points that I thought of as you were going through that, and one is to plug a book that I read, and not to, I guess I just will, called Who Not How by a guy named Dan Sullivan, who operates a company called Strategic Coach here in Canada and throughout North America. And it made me think, when you were talking about partnerships versus hiring, or you go in without the skill set, but instead say, this is who can help you, not how to help. So you are the expert in what you do, you're focused on that. That was a really neat book that might be worth a read for you, but it probably wouldn't
Wrote
be
it
a whole
down.
lot of new concepts.
It's okay. I wrote it down.
Yeah, absolutely. And the time blocking is huge. That's certainly an engineer type thing to do, which is awesome. And I love stealing as much as I can from engineers on process for sure. So I wrote that one down too.
It works. I mean, it works.
Yeah. How do you define success?
Whoa.
It's a big one. You can take a sec.
How do I define success? Success is, if I think about the ultimate success that I want to have, it's to be able to use that valuable time that I have to leave others in a better place. I think
Awesome.
I think if I can ultimately only have to use my time, or have the ability to only use my time to help others, I will be successful.
Wow, cool. A servant leadership, I guess, for sure. What do you, there's been lots of changes in the past. Well, I guess there has, in particular in our world, mine and Nathan's, in which meeting belly to belly was something we did every day with our clients and whatnot. You do operate in a bit of a virtual world. However, with the advent of COVID and these sorts of things, business processes have changed, and client acquisition, et cetera. So has that impacted your business? And if so, how have you adjusted in the past couple of years?
I miss going on site.
Yeah,
I definitely do. As I said, I like seeing how things work. So as much as I have the knack for being able to piece together processes even without being there, to me, there's nothing quite like hearing the clang of the metal, smelling the the welding torch, seeing conveyors move, seeing machines operate. That's my love, right? That's the kind of things that keep me happy, right? You guys remember How It's Made, right? You put me in front of a TV and you put on the whole series of How It's Made, I'm not gonna blink. So
I love that show. Yeah.
So I miss that part, right? Because fundamental, and again, I'm a relationship based person. I want to see people. I'm, in many ways, I'm an extrovert. I want to be around people. I get my energy from people. But I'm a realist too. So I haven't, and I, like every human, I adapt, right? So I'm lucky that the technology that I work with is cloud-based. It's not, you don't need to be there to address the needs the customers have. Given that not many people are traveling, we're all on an even playing field that way, I find. So I've really not put a lot of effort into fretting about remote work or not being able to get on site. Again, I missed those elements of it, but I haven't felt that as a crutch. I went independent with since the pandemic started,
Right.
but I was working fully remotely since beginning of 2018. So for me, remote work, remote selling was really the only option. I mean, when you're dealing with clients all across North America, let alone communicating with people across the globe, it's not realistic, and it's not what I want to see out of my life necessarily, to be traveling all the time. So I'm excited for virtual reality technologies when I'll be able to physically be in a place visually, because I'm a visual person, but not have to necessarily travel, leave my family behind, and sleep in a hotel bed. So I'm gonna roll with all of it, and I'll just use technology to continue shining, and I'll be myself wherever I can be. I'll be myself, I think. And anybody that's in a consulting type of world, unless that you physically have to be fixing a machine, I don't think you should allow yourself to use the pandemic as a blocker.
Cool.
Don't let it stop you.
I like that. If we could just maybe sneak down a path, and we'll force ourselves to keep it to like 3 minutes or something.
Let's
but
go.
we're not. I'm not as techie as you two. Don't have as much of a background, and obviously we're hearing about the metaverse and this sort of thing, and you kind of jumped on it there for a second, saying if I meet with people. So what is that? What's your view on how that impacts business in the next 5 to 10 years, or does it?
Every technology advancement impacts business somehow, right? My view is that pandemic or no pandemic, mass air travel is, for business especially, is a sunk cost that damages the environment. I did do a significant amount of traveling, especially when I was leading those heavy projects. As I talked about at the start of my career, I was traveling from Prince Edward Island to British Columbia for weeks at a time for an entire year. And, a lot of the discussions that we had at the time easily could have been done remotely. It just did, in 2015, 16, that wasn't, remote technology wasn't the go-to. So we were spending thousands and thousands of dollars on sending me to just have conversations that I think we could have done like this. So that's one perfect example to me where these technologies just eliminate an expense that's not necessary on top of all the personal things. Like, I don't love leaving my family, my dog, with my sore back from years of judo. There's my judo black belt
there you go.
certificate there reminding me what I put my spine through. I don't want to go sleep in a hotel bed. I don't want to sit in an airplane for 12 hours to just go have a conversation that I could have the same way the three of us are having a conversation. So, there'll always be people that, and I don't think it's generational. I really don't think it's generational. A lot of people will try to make it a generational conversation, but I don't think it is. There'll always be people that want to go clang a glass at the end of the day with their teammates, want to go clang a glass with their clients, want to go celebrate, want to host people in person. But as much as I value those things as well, I don't try to think that it's worth all of those expenses. I'm a frugal person, so to me, if it's not needed, it shouldn't be spent, whether it's my client's money or my own money. I don't think it should be spent. So I'm happy to see the technology bring us together from further away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always been the case with technology, hasn't it? The only place we have left, the only place, like, we can hear each other. We've been able to hear each other wherever we are for 100 years. We've been able to see each other for the last couple of decades. What's left in that frontier, right? What's left in that frontier? So if we can kind of all feel like we're in the same virtual environment together, I guess that's the next frontier. I don't think we need smell-o-vision or anything like that brought into it. But right, the only other, we can kind of feel like we're in the same room. Not the only, if we can feel like we're in the same room, that's really, I think, the only barrier. Like right now, I see you on a screen tangibly, but we've been talking so naturally that I feel like we're in the same space. The only thing that's missing is that visual effect of it. Is it going to go into that uncanny valley, as they call it, at some point in time? Probably, but I don't see the need to resist any of those types of advancements.
What do you do? So we're heavy in, we're meeting virtually all day long. Nathan and I literally physically haven't met each other, which we've mentioned before. How do you recharge from the virtual environment, or do you? What do you do for fun afterwards, or how do you, just level set yourself and your brain and your attitude and that sort of thing outside of sitting in front of a camera all day?
I have a dog. I mean, that's critical for me and my partner. Like being able to just take Cece for a hike, for a walk when it's not minus 30 degrees Celsius here in Canada, and snowing like crazy. That's for me. And this is, again, owning my life. Knowing that if I don't have a client, here's the reality of it, right? Knowing that I don't have a client meeting, that I can say, hey, you know what? We're both free. Let's go to the beach at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday when it's the summer. That's invaluable to me. I don't want to have to feel like that work owes me. But on the same hand, I deal with companies across many time zones, right? So, I'm also not, because it's, for me, it's my time. I'm not upset if I have to sit at 8 o'clock on a call with somebody and walk them through something, or put a work session later when it's more convenient for them. So really being my own boss, so to say, has allowed me to not have to need to decompress as much. And again, having worked remotely since 2018, I don't have, like, as long as I'm talking to people and I'm making progress, we're all learning, everyone's growing, the value is there. Those are the kinds of things that re-energize me. I'm not drained by that, right? So, when I'm drained is when I don't have enough problems to solve. So and there's not a lack of problems in the world that I'm in. So it's really, I wish I had some better advice, because I just feel like I don't have to really kind of recharge those batteries. It's my passion
Awesome.
And I'm lucky. I mean, it truly does feel like that adage of if you like what you do or love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Even this conversation, like to me, like this isn't what I picture as a marketing activity or this activity. Really, it's just like, hey, this is a really cool life that I get to live, and I really hope that a lot of people can feel like that. And I think technology is allowing a lot more people to feel like that, right? So to me, I would say that I don't have any more of that corporate sting of, dang it, I'm working so hard for somebody else's buck. Ultimately, like that doesn't exist in my life anymore. So that's maybe I'm not the best person to ask the exact question that you asked, but in a roundabout way, I hope that answers kind of how other people can get to that same spot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we love sitting down and just chatting with people too. So I think kind of going back to what you said earlier, is you can always be learning something, and a good salesperson and a good business owner is always learning. So when we get to sit down with people like yourself, and some of the other guests we've had in the past, like we're always learning and just trying to take it in as well. So just to be able to do this and be able to post it for other people to see too, I think it's really exciting, and I think it's a lot of fun so far anyway. And I'm looking forward to the future of it for sure. And I know we're kind of running out of time here, Vuk, and I just wanted to ask a couple quick questions before you go.
Yes, let's go.
Now I know Salesforce has some excellent career opportunities. I'm just wondering if you have any advice for people that are trying to get into that sort of field, or how do you get started in something like that?
Oh, the beauty is there's endless resources to start. The Salesforce as an organization has invested heavily in a learning platform that's called Trailhead, and they're no slouches when it comes to this. They're well aware of the fact that the more that they invest in pushing their brand, the more that they invest in acquiring technologies, building a platform, going to market and selling this platform, the more there is a need for skilled individuals to really take care of clients who they sell to, right? So knowing that with Salesforce, you can't go to get a undergraduate in Salesforce, although I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of years you can, at least a college degree of some sort, right? Salesforce has developed a ton of free learning resources. Salesforce has developed a clear certification path for people in that ecosystem. So the best place to start truly and for anybody is Trailhead. Just you go create a free account, sign up, start doing some badges, some challenges, figure out what Salesforce really is. If you have an industry specific focus that's interesting to you, field service, or you like, data analytics, or you like marketing, whatever piece you want to focus on, there's trails, as they call them, that you can do, and you can really learn about how Salesforce tailors to those industries. Find the right certification path, study hard. Getting a certificate costs $200, and you put that on your resume. You volunteer maybe at a non-for-profit that has Salesforce, or you just do a couple of cool things, a couple of super badges, build your own platform, something as a proof of concept, build your repertoire. You're going to be a year or two away of experience, away from a six-figure salary. And I don't think there's a lot of industries, technologies where the same is true. I really don't. So that's why I really like, for me, one of the things that I love the most, one of the reasons why I do strive to be a business leader, is I love helping people get gainful employment. So that's why, Nathan, you'll see a lot of content on my LinkedIn that talks about not what I do as a business and what I get paid for, but how cool this entire ecosystem is, and how easy it is to kind of enter and start learning. So to me, helping people get gainful employment is a huge passion. Salesforce is a fantastic place to do that. It's been the common string in my entire journey to where I'm at today. So yeah, get on Trailhead. If you want to learn some unique stuff, go on YouTube, go on Udemy. There's tons of courses, lots of other people that have built their own courses. In a couple of years, look out for a course by me, probably on the process side, the business side of becoming a Salesforce expert, and kind of the emotional side of it, rather than just the technical side, because I think a lot of people have that covered already. So yeah, I mean, that's and again, if anybody listening finds me on LinkedIn and they have a question, always happy to give you 20-30 minutes of my time and talk through where you're at, and tell you where you can go, and aim you in the right direction, give you some resources. It's, again, the least I think I can do, in given how much information I've been able to be shared with.
Right.
Awesome. Usually we have a few people in our career, that we make some pivots in the choices that we make in our life and career. And oftentimes some of those choices come by people who inspire us or who we watch from afar. Do you have any of those in your life that have helped you get where you're at, either directly with mentorship or just that you watch from afar and admire?
Oh, definitely. And LinkedIn is an amazing place for that, right? So a lot of the people that kind of aimed me, that gave me their time generously, two that I will definitely name. One is Rob McPherson. He's a former CPG executive, and just generally has always been incredibly open with not just me, but everybody. If you go to his feed, incredibly open with what it takes to be focused, and that kind of I've really leaned into that side in my own consulting methodologies, is that strict need to focus and find a focus. So the resources that he's shared, books, namely Play to Win, that he's suggested to me to read, have been fundamental in kind of shaping, I think, the business strategy that I've led with in my entrepreneurial journey over the last 2-3 years. So that's one. And number two, I'm glad you asked, because I've got his book up top here, is Dennis Gielen. Sorry, Dennis, if I said your last name wrong. Yeah, but fantastic author. The Zero In Formula is quite a fantastic book in the sense that it's not just an individual who's incredibly experienced sharing a clear, easy to follow methodology, but Dennis has also gone and interviewed a ton of really interesting businesses that have, in their own ways, found focus and found ways to be incredibly customer centric and deliver an amazing experience, deliver an innovative solution in their marketplace. And I think a lot of the things that he talks about and a lot of the things that his ideas and techniques have inspired in me have led to that kind of maverick methodology of being embedded, being on the other side of the coin, helping companies through the things that I used to see them not even have a ability to kind of control when I was on the other side, joining, sitting on the other side of the table, being able to help them with procurement rather than selling to them. Has a lot of those ideas, I think, have been kind of catalyzed by the fantastic theories that Dennis puts forward in that book. And I know he's working on a second book. So Dennis, I can't wait to get my hands on that as well.
Awesome.
I'll definitely be checking it out, Vuk. And I want to thank you for taking the time today to sit down with us and chat about you. And so we're happy to learn a little bit more about you and take all the advice we can, because, yeah, like I said, I see you as a pretty prominent member of the LinkedIn community, especially in the Salesforce community. And it's something that I wanted to learn a little bit more about myself. And I'm sure anyone listening and watching can learn a little bit about you as well, and be able to put it towards their life as new goals and everything like that. So we really want to thank you for stopping in today, and I hope everyone watching enjoyed. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.